Hello, I'm Isabella Rossellini, and I am on a mission to explore the serious role beauty plays in things we take seriously. This is not a beauty podcast. It is a relationship podcast. It is a health podcast. It is a science podcast. And today, it's a sports podcast brought to you by L'Oréal Group. What is interesting to me is how sports are another world in which to view the human condition. It is about competition, drama, history, self-pride. It is about performance. And as an actress, this is something I can appreciate and relate. In the first episode of Season 1, we spoke with Lars Krutak, a tattoo anthropologist who specializes in indigenous tattoos, all about the ways in which body ink is politicized around the world. We also heard from Apo Wang Od. She is a 108 years old tattoo artist who's still practicing today in the Philippines. It's a fascinating interview. I would recommend you to listen to it. For our first story, we are again exploring the world of tattoos, but this time the importance of tattoos to the New Zealand rugby team, who are called the All Blacks for their traditional black uniform. Our producer Gigi spoke to the legend of the sport, Joe Rokocoko.
My name is Chosevata Talenga Rokocoko. I'm Fijian, currently living in France as a professional coach for racing, catch-up and deuce. I was privileged to play for the All Blacks. Made my test debut as a 20-year-old and finished off 27 and made the move over to France.
And so the team, the All Blacks, is from New Zealand. Are all the players New Zealanders?
Yeah, the team is from New Zealand, but not everybody was born in New Zealand, especially nowadays when you have maybe 60% of the team is from more different nations. You have a lot of people who are from the Pacific. You have Samoans, Tongans, Fijians, but you have your Māori players and your European players who obviously have been raised from New Zealand.
So how I first became familiar with the All Blacks was I actually saw a video of them performing the haka before a game. Could you describe to me what it is, what it looks like, and really what it's for?
Yeah, the haka is quite unique. It's kind of a dance if you're looking from the outside world, but it's kind of brutal as well in terms of the actions that the players perform. The original haka that we are known for around the world is called the kamate. Kamate, the meaning is I die, and kora is the second line is coming back alive. So it's perceived as a war dance, but it's a celebration of a chief going to death and slowly coming back alive. So most of the times we're used in terms of expressing personal emotions and celebrations as well. So for us, it's a switch on before a big game to get the boys up, because we know it's a physical sport, the sport that we play. There's a lot of hard slapping on the knees and strong gestures. That's the one time you don't care about your facials or what you look like on TV. You might have a camera right in front of your face, but that goes out the window because you're so much in the zone. And then a few guys are naturally gifted to do the pukana. Or pukana is when your tongue comes out and to intimidate the opposition. I wasn't that much of a talent of doing the pukana, but you have the opening of the eyes. You're like you're almost possessed in some ways. To the extreme, your tongue comes out, your eyes are fully bald, and your actions of slapping your thighs, slapping your arms and your chest, and that's all you hear, the slapping of everything, of these actions, and guys going another world in some ways, and having to relax straight after and play a game of rugby.
I mean, even just watching it from a video recording, like I get chills when I watch it. I can't imagine having to play you in rugby after seeing that. It must be difficult.
Yeah, it's intense.
How does it feel to perform it? What are you thinking about? How are you feeling?
First and foremost is not to screw it up because you got 1,000 people or millions of people around the world watching this. And as a kid, when you get up early hours in the morning to watch, because the game's in South Africa, the first thing you remember is the haka. It's driven within the schools. So it's the identity of showing where we're from, who we represent.
I think that's what I found really powerful about it also is that it wasn't just performed by, Indigenous Fijians or New Zealanders. It's everybody in the team, right? And is that something that you kind of feel as a coach also now unites the team together before?
It is. It's a perfect way of, like you said, uniting the team, but actually knowing the meaning behind it and what it represents. And we all for heritage and respecting legacies. And when you're a young kid, you've seen your great idols or your heroes do this ritual.
So another thing I think is quite unique or distinct about the New Zealand rugby team is that many of the team have quite distinct tattoos. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Well, tattoos in the islands have been around over 2,000 years, and it's been something that represents your identity and your heritage and your genealogy of where everything started from. So it's pretty much a roadmap of that person or where they've come from, whether it'll be their tribe or whether it'll be their village or who they represent. We pride ourselves on our identity, and there was kind of loss when the missionaries came across to the island because obviously they didn't want to connect the spiritual world into the real world, and that kind of faded out throughout those mid-years. But we've got to bring back our culture and identity, what makes us unique in some way. What best way to do that is by storytelling, by the image of your body.
Can you describe them for someone who may never have seen them? I know there's quite a few different styles, but if someone were to never have seen these sort of tattoos, what do they look like?
Well, they're quite unique. They're not your classic rose or something that you see down the road. Unique island patterns. You might see shapes of the oceans, which specifies more voyages throughout in the Pacific. You have the sea, sun, you have animals, identity of certain symbols that represent a village. Samoans, they do it from waist down, and they still do it old school way. They do the old traditional shark tooth. If a person had to do your traditional Samoan tattoo, they'll gather for 1 week at a house with your family and relatives all around you, and to show to support because it's such a painful act to do. And you cover from your waist all the way down to below your knees, all tattooed up.
How do they use a shark tooth to do so?
So they old school tap it. So we can use our imagination here and just see someone, just you're lying flat on the ground with your uncles and aunties holding you down. A little stick with a shark tooth at the end of a stick, and just a bit of ink to put on the tip of the shark tooth, and just start, tapping it onto the body. So it's a painful experience. Which
Sounds very painful.
I'm pretty glad I'm not Samoan, but hey, it's to their own. But it's an experience that they take for pride, because when you see that Samoan person with that type of tattoo, they will deal that person had to go through. So you have a different type of respect for that person.
I can imagine so. And in Fiji, where you're from, the approach to tattoos is quite different, right?
It's different, yes. Way back, it was more traditionally for the women, and the tattoos they normally had back then was the representative of the afterlife. That was quickly taken up from the missionaries when they came across, but not as much as the Tongans and Samoans who still carry on their strong tradition.
And for players that are Fijian or Samoan, why do you think it's important for them to show off their tattoos while they're playing rugby?
It's your identity, pride. Fiji is a population just under 1 million. I'm not sure what Samoa and Tonga are, but they're way lower than us. But it's, despite where we're from, situations that we've gone through, as the resilience, we're so proud of our identity and who we stand for and what we represent. So those tattoos are representing all our ancestors who have gone before us.
Last year, when we did the first season of the podcast, one thing that we explored was how tattoos are so political. In so many cultures, they're really revered, almost like a CV of, who you are, where you're from, your accomplishments. And then in other parts of the world, they're seen as associated with negative criminal activity. And I was reading about how in 2019 at the Rugby World Cup in Japan, the All Blacks covered up their tattoos. And it just struck me as incredibly sensitive to local culture. How do you think it was like for the team to make that decision?
It was tough, but we're apart from where we're from, but we respect other people's cultures and identity as well, especially when we're in their country. I wasn't part of their group, but my understanding is in Japan, there's a lot of tribal gangs that carry tattoos. And so when the boys had to go to the gym, they said they had to cover their arms and sleeves. It was right to do because, you respected their laws and their rules, but it's just not tattoos which represent. It's the person that, we can still represent by the way we act and treat people. So there was not much of a biggie for us.
So you have a tattoo yourself. Can you describe it for me and tell me the meaning that it has for you?
I don't have too much of a flash of a tattoo, but it's a tattoo that's very meaningful to me. I've got the old cross just underneath my wrist there. They represent my belief in Christ and my faith and my values and what I stand for. So it's a good reminder for myself of staying on the right path and making sure I'm treating people how they should be treated. But it represents what my family is all about.
And so you're a former player, so you coach now. I remember you telling me that your dad was the chief of your village growing up. What did you learn from him that's sort of informed your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, it's a great question. Last week I had a team camp. Some of the things that we had to share was what do you take out from the outside of these gates of our training facilities that we can bring into and add into to better our team. The thing of being in a village as a chief, we'll learn to serve first before serving ourselves. Shucks, it's quite deep this because it means a lot to me because I remember the elders would tell my dad, when they're hungry, you're hungry. When we're thirsty, you're thirsty. When we're needing hope, you need hope. So the responsibility of serving everybody in the village and the importance of giving before taking is first and foremost. So that for me goes a long way as a coach, giving my time, giving my expertise, but being supportive first and foremost to create a better person before being a better player is one thing I learned from my old man as a chief in the village. It takes a village to grow a child, so that's my philosophy around it anyway.
That's very lovely. I think it's really interesting how it seems for you that rugby, your spirituality, your culture growing up in Fiji, it's all so closely tied together. Would you say that that's true?
That is so true, especially in Fiji. Because we were cannibals back in the day, so we needed a lot of healing back then. Yeah, that is so true, but that's part of identity. It's our faith. It's our family. It's our village. And I can understand the missionaries coming across to Fiji, which helped us, which I'm very happy they did. Kind of holds us instead, being from a small village and living overseas. It's the one thing that you hang on.
I really love Joe and his soft, sweet voice because the haka is kind of scary to look at. He explained so well that it is to get prepared in extreme situation where you have to perform, and bonding and teamwork brings strength. I met another gentle giant, Muhammad Ali, that looked so aggressive and frightening. Boxing is pretty aggressive and frightening, and yet another man, sweet, kind, full of empathy. Muhammad Ali. When I was young, I worked as an assistant to a sport journalist, and often I was sent to the Muhammad Ali camp to follow his training. He must have been very surprised to see a very young girl that every time a punch landed went whoops, as if it was a mistake, because I didn't know anything about sports. And I don't think he ever noticed me, I didn't think at the time. But years later, my sister-in-law, who sometime accompanied me at the training camp, was in a car accident and was dying. And a family, we were all together waiting for her death. And at 11 o'clock at night, somebody knocked at the door. I opened it. It was Muhammad Ali. That he heard about my sister-in-law dying, and he came to entertain us, the family. And he did magic tricks throughout the evening. It was so magical. In that moment of such darkness, he still brought out of us laughter. And this is really the first time I saw personally the greatness of Muhammad Ali that we all know went beyond being a champ of boxing. He was a kind of a guru, a kind of a saint. And a few days ago I was scrolling Instagram and I saw a photo of an old man with such a beautiful face. And I saved the photos. And then I realized it was one of the last photo of Muhammad Ali alive. He was so aged and frail I didn't recognize him, but I recognized that wonderful soul, his gentleness. In our next story, our producer Gigi is exploring the important role that image plays in the sport of basketball with one of its top players.
My name is Sue Bird. I am a former professional basketball player. I first got into basketball pretty much out of the womb. So growing up, I was a classic tomboy, played a ton of sports, but always kind of was drawn to basketball. And so I get drafted number 1 by the Seattle Storm. I played my entire WNBA career there, so around 20 years. I played overseas for some EuroLeague teams in Russia. I also played on the U.S. women's national team. So I've been to World Cups, I've been to 5 Olympics, and that's the story.
Sue is known as one of the best WNBA players of all time. With 5 Olympic gold medals, 5 World Championship medals, and numerous other accolades to her name, she's also the only WNBA player, as of 2024, to win titles in 3 different decades. She's kind of a legend. But besides all these titles, she's also become known for a phenomenon that's taken off on social media and in fashion magazines like Vogue and GQ, tunnel fits.
Man, tunnel fit culture is something that is actually pretty new. We're talking, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, give or take. Like, it's pretty new. And what it is an athlete's way of showing their style, giving you a peek into who they are as a person before they compete. Because a lot of times when you go out and compete, you're in a uniform, putting yourself to the side a little bit for the greater good. So in this one moment, in this like 2-minute span where you get to walk into an arena, into a stadium, and you get to wear your own clothes, you get to style your hair however you want, you get to wear whatever makeup you want to wear. In this one moment, you get to show everybody who you are. And so it's been fun, and people are obviously leaning into it. It's very exciting. You really get to see just a different version of your favorite athlete. I always did my hair for my tunnel fits, like a ponytail. My stylist used to be like, can you just wear it down this once? I'd be like, nope, routine. I'm superstitious. Anyways, the moment you're, walking off the bus or getting out of your car, you're thinking you want to nail it.
And for Sue, nailing it always means a ponytail.
My slick back pony was my thing. I came up with that ponytail just because that's what everybody else was wearing, probably when I was in middle school. Everybody was rocking ponytails. I think at the time, go 90s, the slick back was the look, not to have any hair out of place. And I just got really good at it, and I got really used to doing it. I never really wore a pony off the court, and that was my game mode. When I locked that thing in, it was go time. And that became part of my routine, became part of my superstition. I wore my hair in a bun for 2 games my freshman year of college, and then I tore my ACL.
Superstitions aside, Sue's relationship with her hair has been complicated.
I had straight hair growing up. I loved my straight hair. I hit high school, I'm starting to get a wave. I'm starting to get a kink. What's happening? And by the time I got to college, so let's say I'm 18, 19 years old, I have full-on curly hair. And that for me, I didn't like it. So for a really long time, I just didn't like my curls. And straightening my hair was a grind. I'm an athlete, I'm sweating every day. So I'm basically washing it every day and starting from scratch every day. And there was just this one day where I got out of the shower and it looked kind of good. So I threw in this product. I let it dry a little bit. It still looked kind of good. And I actually had an interview to do that day. I was just going on somebody's podcast, but it was going to be public facing. And I was like, you know what? Just do it. And I finally did it. And from that moment on, I wore my hair curly.
And in a way, Sue's relationship with her natural curls has mirrored her journey in showing up as her authentic self.
Coming out of college, I knew I was gay, but I wasn't sure if I could say that. And so I was really trying to fit into certain boxes, right? Classic feminine boxes. And there was this one, conversation in particular where I was essentially told the more feminine I looked, right? The more I leaned into a girl next door type of a vibe, the better off I'd be. The more opportunities I would get, the more palatable I'd be, the more accepted I would be. And that I feel was pretty much tells the story of the first 5 to 10 years of my WNBA career, really trying to fit into that. And I was, literally point blank told that. I think the ways in which that moment impacted me was more so behind closed doors, knowing I wasn't really being my true self, but, trying to fit in, but at the same time, really, really lucky. I really benefited from being on a team where there was a lot of different women who dressed all different ways, who expressed themselves with beauty in all different ways, wore their hair in all different ways. Some were gay, some were straight, some over here, some over there. Like, it didn't, I was surrounded, and that felt like a cocoon, like a safety net that I had. So even though I was like internally struggling, I did get a little bit of balance. A really fun aspect of sports also is when you are a player whose hair gets a little messed up, or maybe you're wearing makeup and like someone hits you and like all of a sudden your eyebrows to the left a little bit. The best part is when the team comes together and they fix it for you. They're like, oh, I got you. It's like a shared experience.
Ultimately, for Sue, playing a team sport made it even more important to show up as an individual.
I've been on teams where they controlled a lot of what we wore. You know, socks had to be a certain length. They didn't want certain hairstyles wore. They didn't want, a certain amount of makeup worn, right? Like everything you could think of. There was a lot of control. But anything that you could have on your own, every player like really flexed. Maybe it was, okay, you couldn't wear your socks a certain way. You had to have your shirt tucked in. You had to have your hair a certain way, but they were okay with makeup. People will go crazy with the makeup because you have to find ways to self-express in order to be the best version. And you have to be, in order to play well, you have to be the best version of yourself. I mean, listen, there's a reason there's a saying, right? Look good, feel good, play good. There is a reason this exists. I played with a player who had a red lipstick that she always wore. It was her game day lipstick. For her, that was not just style, not just beauty, but like putting like your game face on, essentially, like getting into game mode.
Stepping into one's own style and own look has even bigger potential payoffs now for players. In 2021, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, made a new ruling called NIL.
So NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And for a very long time, when you were an athlete and you went to college, you were considered an amateur, right? Like the scholarship you're getting, room and board, books, the whole thing, that was considered your payment. And that was enough. And you couldn't earn money in any other way. But obviously college sports, big business. They sell a lot of jerseys. They sell a lot of pictures with your face on it. They have media deals and all kinds of stuff. Big, big business. And it just got to a point after a couple of different lawsuits, a couple different tries, where finally the NCAA came to an agreement where players could make money on their name, image, and likeness. So they could do endorsement deals with brands and they could get paid in these types of ways. And it really has definitely broken what was an old system, but right now we're in this moment where a new system is still being created. But the best part is that athletes in college can now be paid.
What this means is that big brands like Nike, for example, wouldn't be able to sign a college athlete, but now they can. And that's important because college sports is a huge moneymaker in the US. In the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year, the NCAA brought in $1.3 billion in revenue from things like ticket sales, sponsorships, media rights, and more. And until NIL, the athletes actually playing weren't able to get a slice.
It's quite literally changing something that we've known for, 50, 60, 70 years. Changing a whole system, the whole college system. I think there's a positive impact, which is players who are having money made off them are now able to participate and make money off themselves in like a really wonderful way.
This all might sound like something niche that would only really affect college athletes, but it will have, and is already having, ripple effects across amateur and professional sports as a whole. It allows teenagers to essentially professionalize themselves and start building their brands younger and younger.
Because it's really based around that college age. You're becoming a business sooner. So now what was happening at, depending on who you are, whether maybe like 20, 21, 22, it's now happening as early as like 14, 15. And so all the things that, you deal with as a professional, building a business, building an image, building a brand, it's happening at a young age when you don't really know yourself, but you're really good at this thing. You're really good at this sport. You're able to capitalize on it. You want to capitalize on it. You want to get paid for these things. But in a building business kind of a way, it's tricky. And so it's having a big impact. And I think the other positive impact is, and this actually might be more specific to women's sports and even more specific to women's basketball, because these players are becoming household names and building their brands. Now when they do enter the professional league, both for the sport and the league, it's always better to have stars. But even for this player, they're able to build their stardom in a way that when they become pro, they're capitalizing, cashing out on it in much bigger ways than I ever could have.
Which is significant when female athletes are famously underpaid in contrast to their male counterparts. Essentially, financial incentives are now a major part of the equation for college sports, both for players choosing where to go to university and for universities recruiting players. Before, to a university, a player was basically worth how good they were at the sport. Now, if they have star power and brand deals, they can be worth more than just their gameplay. That could affect who the university recruits. More star athletes could mean more ticket sales. And for the athletes too, universities who have better NIL programs that provide things like networking, marketing, or brand building support become more attractive. Where before, university choice was based on factors like the coach or facilities. There are even NIL collectives, independent groups that fundraise money for the athletes. It's all incredibly murky territory, and the rules are still evolving. Before, college was a pipeline to the pros where the big money lies. But now you have the top percentage of athletes in college becoming millionaires, celebrities, and influencers. It's still hard to predict all the ways NIL will change life for players, and it may not all be positive.
Right now, the system itself is still adjusting. The college system, the NIL system, how people are participating. There's always going to be shady characters. With more money, just comes more shady. It's like the tale as old as time. And so you don't know if you're an athlete, what somebody's intentions are. That's why it's so important to find a core group of people who you can trust. You don't know who's going to, maybe exploit a player or exploit a situation.
And transitioning to life in the public eye is not always straightforward.
I think when it comes to public scrutiny, when it comes to appearance, when it comes to critique, both in your performance and how you look or what you say, those things are hard to deal with when you do know yourself. Those things are hard to deal with when you are older, more mature, have more experience, have more life experience. So now you're taking these types of problems that, again, are just hard to deal with in general and having teenagers, people who are figuring themselves out, people who don't, I can only imagine what that would have been like for me at that age. I clearly did not know who I was or like what the hell I was doing. So it's tricky. It's tricky.
What the NIL ruling brings into focus is the fact that athletes of all sports are turning into brands, with all the benefits and risks that can entail. A player's image is now having major impacts on their college and professional opportunities. Signature looks like a slick-back ponytail or red lipstick help athletes build their brand, starting in their adolescence. And one athlete who particularly embodies the importance of beauty and brand building is Megan Rapinoe, Sue's partner.
Megan Rapinoe is one of the best women's soccer players of all time, incredibly successful. She's well known for her pink hair. Going into the 2019 World Cup, at that point, she had been more of like the bleach blonde vibe, and that was like her thing. Everybody knew her for that. And right before she went, we get on FaceTime. She was already with the team traveling, and she's like, "What do you think?" And her hair is bright, like troll bright pink. And I was like, do you think, is that how you want to go into the World Cup, drawing this much attention? She was like, "Yes, it's exactly why I did it." And that just actually shows you the difference between how two people and two athletes are impacted in different ways by self-expression. That's what she wanted. That's how she was going to play well.
And for Sue, it's really all about allowing players to feel the best they can before a big game.
When you're able to kind of style yourself in the way you want to style, when you're able to do your hair in the way you want to do it, and it feels good, it's one less thing you're worrying about. You feel good in it. You don't have to think about it, and you can now focus on what's really happening out here, right? Which is the race you're running, the game you're playing, the match you're in. So I think there's something about checking some boxes, which I guess falls in a little bit of that preparation part, right? Did I eat well? Did I get good sleep? Did I train? Do I look good? Is my hair right? Is this fitting well? Are my shoes looking good? It's kind of okay, we're good. And then if you can find a calm in that, I think it does allow you to perform better.
I would have thought that basketball, being a team sport, was all about blending in, a show up as a united front. But these stories shows me that standing out as an individual is just as important. When athletes are able to craft their own identities, it's not only a way for them to feel confident, but also to make money. For a long time, the topic of mental health was quite taboo in the world of sport. Not many athletes share their inner struggle publicly. But today, that's changing. So for our final story, our producer Gigi speaks to Naomi Osaka, one of the world's top tennis players, about self-care rituals, her playful on-court looks, and setting an example for the next generation by having fun.
My name is Naomi Osaka. I'm a tennis player and I'm from Japan, New York, and Florida.
So you're obviously known for your tennis, but you're also really known for your on-court style, so your outfits, your hair. Can you describe your on-court style for those who might not have seen it before?
I like to picture myself as different characters. Every slam, I want to be like a different character or a different person, and I think that's because I grew up watching a lot of anime or reading a lot of manga, and there's the magical girl characters, and they always get to transform into someone different than who they are. So for me, I feel like stepping on the court with my outfits is me transforming into a different person.
What does that do for you, for your sort of psyche as an athlete to dress up as a magical character?
It kind of just allows me to have a lot more fun. And I also feel like that's kind of what tennis is missing a little bit, because I grew up in the era of like Serena, Venus, Sharapova, and maybe it's just me because that was the only thing I focused on, but their outfits and their grand reveals were always so exciting, and I think that's what tennis is missing a little now, so I'm happy to bring it back. Even when I do things with Nike, there was like, okay, do you want it to be very performance-based or do you want to have a little bit of fun? And for me, I'm always like, make it as exciting as possible. Of course, some people don't like wearing flashy outfits while they're playing tennis, but I don't know. I think that culture was a little bit lost.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes the outfits that I've seen from you, especially the green one with the huge bow on the back, when I saw that, I mean, it looked just incredible, but I did wonder, like, does it make it harder to play tennis with a huge bow on your back, or is it fine?
I mean, it definitely doesn't make it easier, but I'm always the person that's like, even if it's difficult to play in, I want to play in that, because I always just imagine like little kids or like people that are into fashion just looking at the tennis match and like thinking that they want to wear it too. And I feel like when I get my new outfit or whatever and I pack it in my bag and I go to play my match, it makes me really excited because I feel like you get to wear a really cool outfit and play tennis. So that's kind of like, what more can you ask for?
It seems like your hairstyle always matches and coordinates so well with these outfits. How does that process go?
Honestly, for the most part, I kind of wing it. One of my best friends is my hairstylist. So yeah, we have a group chat and I'll just throw ideas in there and we'll kind of bounce back and forth. So yeah.
How long do these hairstyles usually take? Because another favorite of mine of yours was, I think it was the US Open last year. You had the lime green outfit and your hair was in braids and then you had this like amazing ponytail in the back. How long would something like that take?
Honestly, it depends on the hairstyle, but maybe like more than an hour. I think for the ponytail, it was maybe 45 minutes. It wasn't that long. I honestly find it relaxing. I like looking and observing too because I also have a daughter, so I want to learn how to do her hair that well too.
Oh, so cool. Have you tried any of your looks on your daughter yet?
She doesn't like sitting still for most of it, so we haven't gotten to the very like elaborate styles yet. But hopefully with time, we'll get there.
She'll appreciate it later, I'm sure. It seems like being and looking like yourself and standing out and in dressing in a way that's fun for you is a really important part of your psyche as an athlete. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think for me, one of my biggest things growing up was obviously I'm a little different in terms of like being Japanese and Haitian and American and like playing under the Japanese flag. And I've always had to explain that in interviews when I was growing up. So I think I just developed this love for uniqueness and knowing that everyone has their own story and, you know, you're the only you in the world. And that's something that should be celebrated. So I do think that plays a really big part in like who I am and how I operate.
So I'm also really interested in how athletes use kind of rituals to cope with like the pressure that comes with being in such a high performance sport. I don't think a lot of people would be able to imagine the kind of pressure that comes with playing in a major tennis tournament. Could you describe what that's like?
I would say if you're in the very beginning, the first rounds are usually the most nerve-wracking because you don't want to lose in the first round, but you also don't want to think about losing in the first round. And I think for me, what I think about most is like the hours of practice you put into it. So you want to do your best, and at the very least, you want to make it a very exciting match for the people that are watching.
Is there anything you do when you sort of wake up, you know you're going to play that day, to make sure all you focus on is tennis and playing well?
I'll usually wake up and take a hot shower because I feel like it relaxes my muscles. Probably listen to very calming music or like rain meditation sounds. Those are my favorites. And then eat breakfast and go on site, look at pictures of my daughter or videos, and then just practice and sit there and wait until my match is called.
You know, a lot of people have their sort of usual skincare routine in the morning. Does that kind of all go out the window with tournaments, or do you sort of do the same thing every morning no matter what?
Oh no, I definitely stick to my skincare routine. Like I watch my mom do her skincare, like she's really into it. And for me, it's kind of similar to brushing my teeth. It's just like a very big habit at this point. It depends on how much time I think I have, or if my daughter's around and I don't have time to do like a full 5-step routine. Usually if I don't have time, I'll just slap on some moisturizer and then run out the door. But if I have time, like I'll go in with the exfoliation, and then I'll do like the vitamin C serum, and then I'll do the under eye little like patches, and then moisturizer and sunscreen.
Yeah, sunscreen's important with tennis, I would imagine.
100%. I would say the times that I have enough time to do like my whole process, it does make me feel like I'm able to have time to relax and kind of focus on myself, and also just put care and love onto my skin. So yeah, it makes me feel good.
You're one of the athletes that I think of first when I think of athletes that speak out particularly about mental health. And it seems there was a whole generation before you that were incredible tennis players, but that weren't opening up so much about it. Why did you choose to sort of come forward and start speaking so openly about mental health? Why was it important for you to do so?
For me, it was important to start speaking about mental health because I think there were certain situations that I was in that I started to feel like I can't be the only one that feels this way. And I know we all kind of have main character syndrome, so I was a little bit second guessing myself. But one of my biggest, I guess, goals in life is to make the path easier for people that are younger than me so they wouldn't have such a tough time getting to my position. And I think I just wanted to maybe open the door a little bit and see if I wasn't the only one feeling that way. So I think also after having my daughter, I do find myself looking at younger kids watching me practice or watching me play, and I imagine that being my daughter. So I do think that's a very big motivator for me in doing the things that I do.
So you're the brand ambassador for Maybelline's Brave Together initiative. Can you tell me more about the program?
The Maybelline Brave Together program is basically a way that they were able to make getting help accessible for younger people, and also like destigmatizing the fact that mental health is something that shouldn't really be talked about or shouldn't be discussed. And for me, mental health was something that I thought should be as regular as physical health, but we're not at that point yet, and I think we're getting better.
How do you think self-care and protecting your mental health makes you a better player? And maybe how does it kind of protect your career in the long run?
I definitely think self-care is really important. I feel like the harder we work, the more we sometimes forget to take care of ourselves, or maybe we take care of others and forget to take care of ourselves in the process. And I think there's a lot of value in stepping back and remembering to breathe and appreciate yourself and understanding how far you've come, and just being grateful. So I think for me, there's definitely been moments where I needed to step back and just remember to appreciate myself, and be grateful for the times that I I have. And for me, I guess I would say self-care comes in a lot of different forms. And I think for me, it comes in meditating and journaling. So I know people have different forms of self-care, and I think that's also really cool. But those are the two that I love the most.
And how do you wind down at the end of the day? Perhaps like a long day of playing in a tournament?
It depends on whether my daughter's at the tournament or not. If she's there, I'd usually give her a bath, put her to bed, read her a book. I think that for me is my favorite way to wind down. But if she's not there, I'd probably watch a show or something, or watch other tennis matches.
I do identify with Naomi Osaka's having fun, bringing fun back, because fun is also something that we all need in life, a smile, a laugh. I always say that fun is the fuel of my life. Sports are really a microcosm of human nature, creativity, identity, teamwork, competition, played out on a global stage. The pressure must be enormous, knowing that days are made and hearts are broken about what you do and what your body does in a split second. And really how beauty shows up in sports, like in any other area of life, is much about a private individual moment as it is about a public moment. It is Naomi giving her daughter a bath to decompress after a tournament. It is Joe bonding with his team over shared values. Thank you to our guest for speaking with us. And thank you for coming with us on this journey again. Our theme music is by Jim Brumberg and Ben Landsberg of Wonderly. If you have enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform. And if you don't mind, rating and reviewing so that other listeners can find us. I'm Isabella Rossellini, and thank you for listening to This Is Not a Beauty Podcast, brought to you by the L'Oreal Group. See you soon.